Hi, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Christine Dyckman, and I am a career counselor walking the gray line between helping job seekers to land their perfect job and helping businesses to thrive in this economy. Today, we're going to talk about LinkedIn Part 2, making connections, what to say, and where to go from there. What I'm going to do is share my screen with you so you can see the slides as we are going through them. If you would like to take a screenshot of any of that information on a Microsoft Word computer, you want to look at your keyboard and find the print screen button right at the top. Press the print screen button and it's magically in your mouse. Right-click your mouse and copy and paste it into a Word document, and you'll have everything right there. If you'd like to take notes, feel free to do that, and we're going to move forward. If you miss something, definitely rewatch it so you get all the information that you need. All right, so first I'm going to share my screen with you, and then you can see what we're going to talk about. LinkedIn Part 2, making connections, adding connections to your profile, what to do, where to go, all that good stuff. All right, so don't forget, if you haven't watched Job Search 1, episodes 1, 2, and 3, but most importantly, LinkedIn 1, getting started and building your profile, you want to stop right here and go back to rewatch that. 1, I don't want you to have to redo any work. I want you to be able to move forward as quick as possible. You might have to redo some things, which will take you more time if you didn't watch those parts. All right, so connections you didn't even know. You might not have known. You probably don't even know you had. So we're going to talk about those. Think of a pyramid. All right, so we are thinking of a pyramid. You have a first line and a second line and a third line and everyone else. So you might only see your first line. That's all you think that you are connected to. Well, think of the second and third line as well. Your first line will come up as your first line connections. Those are people that you're directly connected to. Your second line, let's think of the green part of this pyramid. That's your second line. Everybody that's connected to your first line is in that green section. All right. So when you look at your LinkedIn profile under that black bar at the top, when you enter My Network, you will see your first line connections, how many you actually have, right? And then you can click on the person and see all of their connections and how many people they're connected to and maybe who they are. All right. So those are all your connections as well. There's one person in between. When you click on the second person's picture, their profile, you're going to see everyone they're connected to. That is your third line, the orange. So when you add up all those people in your first line and your second line and your third line, you're connected to a lot more people than you had any idea that you were connected to. Okay. They're all people in your network. And as such, your goal is to get the third line into your first or your second line as close as possible. Because if you take a third line connection and enter them into your first line by connecting with them directly, it moves everybody else up. So you're connected to even more people. Okay. With that said, the name of the game, getting a job, and making friendships. Making relationships is about who you know and how many you know so that you can move forward. One of the options for you is from LinkedIn to see who you already know. When you enter this part in by clicking My Network on that black bar, and then there's a drop down, Contacts, and then Add More Contacts, this is an option. You can enter your email address and see who already is on LinkedIn, who you've emailed. It's a smart system, so it can see who is already there, okay? And what is the commonality? You can also use a different email system such as Yahoo or AOL or Outlook. It gives you options as well, okay? If you prefer not to make that connection using your email address, you don't have to, not a problem. But if you go to that black bar on top and My Network, you'll see under the drop-down more LinkedIn recommendations. Why? It is a smart algorithm. If it sees that you worked at ABC Company from your profile, everyone from ABC Company might be a recommended possible connection. You may know that person, didn't even know they were on LinkedIn, or you may not because you left that company and then they came in, or maybe they worked at a different outlet and you worked on the East Coast and they worked in the Midwest. However, you both have ABC Company on your profile. You might know them or you might have interacted with them. How about alumni? Who you went to school with? Maybe it was high school. Maybe it was college. Maybe it was your graduate degree. Whatever is like, that's what LinkedIn is kind of matching together to help you move forward and give you different recommendations and suggestions. People you might know. You already have a starting point to make connections based on those likenesses. Hey, you went to school here. I also went to school there. You graduated earlier than me, but we have a like commonality of thought process, experience at this club or a football game or campus or whatever it happens to be. Even if they graduated maybe 10, 15 years before you or after you, you're still have something in common. The whole goal is to make connections and to network. So LinkedIn wants to help you make those connections by showing you who you might already know that is also on LinkedIn. You can also search for new connections. Use the search bar on top of that black bar on your profile, right above that navigation bar. Now, that's how it is now, but it might move, it might change. We talked about in LinkedIn Part 1 how there's always new changes being implemented and screens might look a little bit different. That's where it is now, but it might change in the future. You'll always have it though, all right? So using that search bar, you can filter out who might be a good connection, looking at their profile, looking at their professional experience, being able to read up on what that person has done and how they may be a good fit for your network. You can use that search bar and search by name. You can search by company, the school that they went to. You can narrow things down. Who might already be in your network? First, second, third line. And you didn't even know it because we're talking about thousands upon thousands of connections that might be there that you didn't even know, right? You're using the search tool on LinkedIn just like you would with Google. You can use Boolean searches. You can use ands and ors or quotation marks and that kind of thing. Okay. I definitely encourage you to try it out and try a few different filters to see what the results are that that you'll get as you're using that tool. When you are inviting somebody to connect after you've done that research, you want to customize every single invitation. If you just send a blank, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn, it could come from anybody. And people tend not to accept blank invitations. But when you customize it, you're limited to 300 characters. However, it can show a person that you're very interested in connecting with them and that you've done your homework. You've seen their profile. You've been able to pick up what they're about and what their goals are, and maybe a commonality between your profile, your career goals, what you want to be when you grow up, and theirs. How is it going to benefit them by accepting your invitation? It's always about the other person. It is never about you. So you want to personalize all of the information to be able to be more likely for that person to accept. You don't want to accept if someone sends you a blank invitation because you don't know if it's a scam. You don't know if they're just hitting connect, connect, connect without really looking at your profile. Unless, of course, it's, cousin Rich that you already know, or your best friend's brother, or whoever it happens to be. Unless you know that person, you might want to think twice about accepting blank connection requests, okay? Now, a lot of people ask, I can't connect to them. How do I do that? They won't let me. It won't let me. The system is stopped and blank. Well, take a look at somebody's profile, their home page, because that will dictate to you whether you can send them an invitation or there are certain kinds of blockers on those invitations to you. Your privacy setting dictates what you and what your profile says. And it could say message, it could say connect, it could say more. So if you look below, you can see Dr. Terry Horton. You can follow that person with that blue button, and blue is what they prefer, or you can message that person. Sometimes it's free. There's no lock on here, so therefore I can message that person for free. Or there's a more. So you can recommend, you can save their profile, there's lots of different options, a drop-down box, when you hit the more button. However, keep in mind that Dr. Terry Horton decided on all of those things. Okay, so not you, not your profile, but that person. So everybody's profile page and options for following or connecting or messaging are going to be different based on their profile settings. In our next example, Dr. Kim Marie Redmond. You can see her blue button is connect. It's not follow. Message. There's a little lock there. The lock means that there is a cost. Unless you have upgraded to the premium paid subscriber account or LinkedIn, you can't message. Okay. If you only have the free account from LinkedIn, you can't message. But if you have the paid subscriber, you can message a few people per month. All right. So keep in mind the lock icon requires you to upgrade. All right. And then we have the More button. Again, we can save the profile to PDF. We can recommend that person. We can report that person to LinkedIn, and maybe it's a fake profile. I don't know, but you have all those options. But to communicate with them directly without involving anybody else, it's locked. So you may have to get another person involved, such as your first line, to make that introduction a warm handle to you between the two of you. Dr. Kim, meet Christine. Christine, meet Dr. Kim. Go forth and be happy. I mean, it's not really that difficult, but it will require my first line and their first line to make that introduction. Sometimes you will get a pop-up that says, to verify this member knows you, please enter their email address. Their email address is their personal email address in many cases that they used to create their LinkedIn profile. Now, there's so many email addresses between professional and personal, and I have 5 personal email addresses just for me, right? So you don't know which email address is being used for their LinkedIn profile, for my LinkedIn profile. So it makes it a little bit difficult unless you know exactly the email address, right? So that's why a warm handoff is usually better than entering in somebody's email address. But you might get that message sometimes. That's usually for the person is not interested in building up their network. All right, so we did talk about settings on your privacy page. And in LinkedIn Part 1, I had said it's very important to look at all your options in your privacy settings, the little picture icon. There's a drop down once you hit it, and one of the things is privacy. What you choose for your privacy settings on your LinkedIn dictates what a stranger will see as far as connect or follow or message and all of those things. So it will dictate. You can change your own privacy settings so that different icons come up, but you have no control over somebody else's privacy settings and what they want you to do as far as connect, message, follow, etc. But you do have options for yourself. So you will see different people have different things. Again, it's nothing that you did. It is something that they chose to put as a privacy setting for themselves. When you do go to that privacy setting, that drop down, the little edit for your picture and all of these things, you can see you can change anything you would like, okay? When you're in job search, it's recommended that anyone can send you an invitation because some people use LinkedIn and don't have a recruiter account. Recruiter accounts do cost a lot of money, and it would be a shame that you missed out on an invitation to apply for a job because you didn't have your settings correct. So when you have a drop down, who can send you invitations? Most people put anyone on LinkedIn. Some people do want to restrict it and put only people who know your email address. Well, guess what? That was the slide we just did. Or only people who appear in your imported contact list. We talked about that a couple of slides ago. So it's up to you what your settings will be. After you accept a connection request, they're now number 1 in your connections. Remember the pyramid, right? If somebody sends you that connection request, you accept, move on. Well, don't forget about that. The purpose of LinkedIn is to build relationships, not just add numbers to your pyramid, right? So what you want to do is immediately, or as close to accepting as possible, send them a note. Thank them for connecting with you. Reach out to them and find that commonality. Follow up. Maybe you're speaking on the telephone. Maybe you're speaking on a virtual or Zoom call, but you're making some kind of relationship and connection so you can communicate, find out when you can talk again. Build that relationship and find out about the person that's part of that profile. Remember, we're always talking about cybersecurity, and don't want you to be afraid of the internet because you will never break it. But when it comes to LinkedIn, you don't necessarily want to be a lion. LinkedIn is very well aware that there are so many fake profiles that have been created on LinkedIn, and they're being used to phish people, to scam people, to make connections, especially for job seekers, taking advantage of them. So while you do want to make connections, build relationships, talking to people outside of just messaging, just doing the internet thing is really a big deal. How do you do that? You want to make sure you know the person. And if you find out that it is a fake profile or a scam artist, you can disconnect to that person and not have them in your network to take advantage of other people in your own pyramid. Okay? So do not be a lion. Don't accept every request. Do your due diligence and your homework to make sure it's somebody that would be an actual person you want in your network. All right, so now we're going to manage my network. You want to take that black bar and you want to click on My Network, and then there'll be a drop down. Click on Manage My Network. When you manage, it's going to separate everything out for you. How many connections you have, how many contacts, people I follow. Maybe I didn't connect to them, but I'm following them. How many groups did I join? How many events that I've shown interest in or am attending? Because the events will come up on my page and reminders. How many pages have I liked? Newsletters that I'm receiving, hashtags that I'm following. My entire network, my activity is there. And your network is your net worth. You want to make sure you're managing it correctly to your highest advantage. Never be shy. We talked about cybersecurity. We talked about not being a lion. But the whole purpose of LinkedIn is to make connections. It is to develop relationships. Use LinkedIn to do that as a starting point to move on. Maybe you will have those conversations through email, through LinkedIn messaging, through groups on LinkedIn, and then take it off the platform. Maybe private email chats, or maybe you're meeting for coffee or for breakfast. I have done those same things with many people in my network. You're not going to be best friends with everybody that you are in a network with, but it's a way to make new relationships. You never know who knows who. Be human. Think about all the reasons you could reach out to the people that are in your network. Once they're there, don't forget about them. You have a lot of people that you could have a relationship with, and you're like, oh, I haven't talked to them in over a year, 2 years. I don't know what I would say. How do I start that conversation? Well, what about your connections that have been recognized in the news, or maybe it's their birthday or their job anniversary? They've been at a job for 3 years or 4 years. Being able to put your name in front of them, reach out and say, hey, great job, congratulations. That is really a big deal. And it reminds them that you are in their network and you're rooting for them. Sometimes they can recommend a job for you. You never know, right? LinkedIn will also recommend jobs for you. What about the post? Maybe you created a post, you shared it on your page. Well, who read it or commented on it? Not just like, but commented on it. Are you connected to them? Are they in your second line or third line? Did you make that connection? Did you respond to their comment? Are you using LinkedIn platform to your advantage? How about new connection requests? Depending on how you have your privacy settings set, are they viewing your profile as follow or as connect? And are you accepting those new connection requests? And of course, following up with a personalized message, doing your homework, your due diligence. Who's in the group with you? Have you looked to see? I'm in groups and there's like, I don't know, over 100,000 people in those groups. Those are all potential connections. And by the way, in the group, they're all free connections. So you have a lot of different options if you have something in common with them, their viewpoint. Ask questions, get answers to your questions, develop those relationships. Use LinkedIn to comment on other people's posts, something that they've shared, articles of interest, and then have that conversation going. Who else commented on that post? Maybe that's a potential connection request or a connection for you. I don't know, right? Take a look. You could spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. The goal is not to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, but it's an option for you because it's a wonderful platform to build those relationships. At the very least, do not sit by and just wait for someone to reach out to you. Don't wait for someone to ask you for a connection request. Go forth and, try and do it yourself. Show the action and it will come back. It'll also show your brand and what you're all about. Notifications are probably the most important part for you to keep up with what's going on around you on that LinkedIn platform. Another important part of that notification dropdown is who has viewed your profile. For the basic, the free option for LinkedIn, you get to see the 5 most recent views from the last 90 days, who they are. Now, again, privacy settings might say a recruiter in XYZ industry, or it might say a person that graduated from ABC school, the same as you, or it might give their entire profile information. Your goal is to look at those who's viewed your profile, figure out who they are, and if it gives you a lot of information, maybe you want to make that request to connect with them. Or you want to message them and say, hey, I noticed that you looked at my profile. I am so excited. Is there anything else that I can answer for you? Maybe we should connect and continue that conversation. You're making some kind of gesture in order to be able to move forward and develop that relationship, right? So that list will display where they work, how they even found you. Somebody in an industry or somebody just searching through LinkedIn, or is it someone connected to somebody? What is their job title? What are they all about, right? So it's another way for them to also reach out and do a little bit of investigating. It's a matter of just making that match. We talked about stalking people on LinkedIn, and stalking is maybe not such a good word, but at the same time, it really does define what you're doing. So when you're looking up somebody else's profile, you can have everything showing. Remember, your privacy settings dictate what other people see. So that includes visibility. I can have everybody see that I looked them up, or I can make my visibility quiet. It doesn't have to be, and maybe it's just somebody at my college. And it won't say my name, and it won't say, and maybe I'm just kind of looking up a competitor, or I'm looking up maybe a hiring manager, and I don't want them to know that I viewed them. I could do that. Or I could be completely private, anonymous LinkedIn member. When you use anonymous LinkedIn member, nothing comes up and you can view anybody. It's kind of like stalking, right? You look at them, but they have no idea that who you are. When you choose this private mode, everything from, remember I said the past 5 will show for the last 90 days on a basic, all it's gone. Everything is gone. So you'd be starting from scratch. You want to look and see who's viewed your profile first before you change your privacy settings, because it'll be obsolete. You can come back after you're done doing your homework and you're investigating and turn it back on, showing your full name and your headline, and everything will start all over again. Square one. Looking at the 9 dots at the top of your little bar, you will see work at the bottom. There are 9 little dots. In those 9 dots, there's a drop down and groups. Groups is another way for you to make connections and find out information about a particular industry or subject, or what people are saying, maybe what they're sharing as far as articles go, that kind of thing. So when you join groups, you want to look for not only your professional interests, but your personal interests. You can join a job search group. You can also join your personal interests, whether it's veterinary or SPCA, or maybe it's a surfing club, or I have no idea. There are thousands of groups out there. Some people post in them, some people don't, but it's a way for you to make those connections, see what they're all about, and build relationships from that point. Because it's such a big platform and everybody is unique and there are multiple groups, of course, that's why you could spend so much time on LinkedIn. So make sure that you have a timer and you're going to get off of that platform and go be a real person until the next time you're on LinkedIn. Measure your time, because you could just be on LinkedIn for a long, long time. Going back to groups, just like in-person groups, just like networking, just like hanging out and going, maybe it's a group in office or a group outside of an office, a job seeker group, or a DEI group, or what. There are groups just like that on LinkedIn. Okay, so it's a way for you to network on the computer and then take it off the computer or your phone. But it allows you to become a subject matter expert. What are you talking about, and what are your expertise that you're willing to share with other group members and have conversations? Be able to showcase, well, I think this, or, I saw that and I don't agree with this, and whatever happens to be, the more commenting and sharing of posts that you do, the more of a subject matter expert you become by chance, not on purpose, right? You can even create your own groups. If you go and investigate and there's not enough people, or if there isn't a group that exists, I'm telling you there probably is, but if there's not a group that doesn't exist, make your own. It's okay. You can do that. And LinkedIn allows you to do that, right? So there's a lot of ways that you can do all of those things. Be active. Most important, when you're on LinkedIn, you want to not only hit the like button, but you want to comment on somebody else's post. That will increase your own visibility, your own profile picture under that comment. And maybe if it's really important, you want to share that post on your own page and comment on it as well, right? You can make introductions to others. Remember I said, Kim meet Christine, Christine meet Kim. Go forth and be merry, and then you're out of it, but you're making an introduction. I think that you would both benefit from developing this relationship, having this conversation, because you're both interested in XYZ. I don't know, but you will get that request based on what's going on and how many people you have, and you're going to want that introduction as well. Write something that's helpful, a blog or a post, or somebody is going to think differently about a situation, or they're going to agree and allow others to see their own subject matter expertise. Maybe they will put your post in a spotlight. Oh my goodness, that is the best post I've ever seen, and they're going to rise you to the top. Giving recommendations is a huge thing. You want to receive them, of course, but to give them is definitely putting somebody else first and paying it forward. So who in your network would you recommend? That could go a really long way. And recruiters too look at not how many you received, but also how many you gave. It can't be a one-sided situation. So you should do both. But be active on LinkedIn. Build relationships with people, because there's real people behind those links, behind that LinkedIn profile. We talked about spending a long time on LinkedIn. You could spend 10, 15 minutes a day on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be a long time. It's not a soul sucker kind of thing, because people have said, I don't want to get on LinkedIn. It's another social media platform, and I will get lost, and I'll be on there forever, and it takes too long. I get that. But you don't have to spend a lot of time to be active on LinkedIn. Maybe you're scrolling through, but you're only commenting on one post a day. You're doing one thing per day, 10 to 15 minutes. Not long. If you're in job search, you might want to spend longer than that 10 to 15 minutes on LinkedIn, because we know networking is the #1 way that you're going to land a job. Maybe if you have your own business, you want to promote it and you want to show that you're active, maybe you're on LinkedIn 2 or 3 times a day for 15 minutes apiece. Doesn't have to be long, but multiple times. You have to decide and figure out what works for you and your situation. Don't ignore LinkedIn, but don't let it take over your world either. Remember that LinkedIn is a tool. That's all it is. Just like anything else, it is a tool. It is not a substitution for in-person networking, for shaking somebody's hand, looking them in the eye, and maybe it's a fist bump. I don't really know, post-COVID-19, so to speak, but it's just a tool. But you've got to use the tool well, or it doesn't matter that you're on LinkedIn. With 870 million people worldwide, you're just one person. So in order to get noticed and be seen, you have to be active. Focus on branding, a personal brand. Share, comment, post, and most important, build relationships with others that are on LinkedIn. That's it for today. That's all we're going to talk about for connecting. And next time, we're going to talk about LinkedIn use for job seekers. So thank you so much for coming, and I appreciate that. Have a great day, and we will talk soon. Bye.